kept my story hidden for a long time because I was afraid of how people were going to look at me. I'm not afraid anymore. And if telling my story is going to give even one person the confidence to tell their story, and that'll give someone else the confidence to tell their story, then it's worth it. So my name's Katelyn McIsaac. When I was in the 6th grade, I won the Kaylee Waddup Quality of School Life Memorial Award. At my school, in my opinion, that was the highest honor a student could receive. And it was basically an award given to one student each year whom the teachers felt embodied the term role model. And I will honestly never forget the words my principal used when she called my name. I remember her saying, "This student walks into our building every single day with a smile on her face, and she makes sure that everyone around her smiles just as big and just as bright." And in that moment, I just remember feeling so happy and so relieved that all of the work I had put into making everyone around me smile hadn't gone unnoticed. The 6th grade was the year that my smile was my brightest feature. The 6th grade also happened to be the first year I thought about killing myself. And when I sat on the end of my bed and I had the belt around my neck, I didn't fully understand the concept of suicide. I was only 12. I hadn't been exposed to anything because they don't talk about it in schools. They don't tell you what depression feels like, especially when you're in 6th grade. But I just knew that I wanted the pain to stop. For anyone in school, I was the shoulder to cry on. I was the listening ear, and I took on that role not realizing the toll it was going to take on my life. I made it in with the popular kids, so everyone at school was noticing me more, but I don't know how comfortable I was with that, because I didn't like drawing attention to myself, because when I had attention, the kids were calling me weird. I got bullied really badly in middle school, which is something that not a lot of people noticed or wanted to acknowledge, I guess. They told me I was being oversensitive. I should just suck it up and you're just sad. Kids get over it. It's just a bad day. And that I was hyper-focused on making everyone else happy, and I completely lost what made me happy at all. I started talking to some of my friends about how I was feeling, but I always felt like their problems were much, much bigger than mine, and that I needed to focus on them more than I needed to focus on myself. So I kind of stopped telling them how bad it was getting. I put on that smile, but no one looked past it. But if they had, they would have just seen empty. And some were telling me that I needed to gain weight, and some were telling me that I needed to lose weight. I would binge eat because I was upset, so I wanted food. And then I would purge it because I needed to lose weight. And it made me feel like I was alone at home, and I couldn't talk to them about it at all, which I think was hard on them too, so it made the situation worse because they couldn't talk to me about it, but they wanted to know what was going on with me. My parents kind of started to fight, and they always wanted the best for me, but I don't think they knew how to give it, and they never knew how to approach the topic of me being upset, because I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to draw attention to myself, so they just didn't say much. In May, I started cutting myself for the first time, and it got to the point where I was using it every single day. Just because it wasn't because I wanted to hurt myself. I didn't feel like I deserved to be hurt. I just wanted to know that I was alive. I felt so numb. In 10th grade, I kind of let it all slip. And I really owe my life to my best friends, Holland and Davin, because they recognized the signs. They knew that I wasn't okay at all, and they told one of the guidance counselors about it. And I can remember that day so vividly because it was the day that my life changed. And I walked into her office and she said, "Look, I know what's happening. Your friends told me what's going on. Do you want to talk about anything?" And I said no, because I stupidly assumed that she was going to be like, "Oh, okay, you don't have to talk," and just let me go back to class. but she made me show her the scars, which were all up my arm, and she called my parents. And the walk home from that bus felt like the longest walk I've ever been on, because my parents didn't know any of it. And I walked in the door, and my mom just hugged me, and my dad started to cry, and it was the first time I had ever seen him cry. Now I'm gonna cry. And that was the year, and I guess that was the day that all of that happened, that I made it my goal to help any kid who felt like I did, because I didn't want anyone to ever feel like they were as alone as I felt. It's sad for me to think about, because not because I went through it. I don't hate the fact that I went through it, because I'm a much better person now, but I hate the fact that I couldn't see how many people were there to support me, and if I had been willing to open up, I would have had all the support I needed. A lot of the reason I didn't want to talk about it in the first place was the stigma behind mental illness, and I didn't want to be labeled, because labels mean you are this thing. And especially in our society today, there's a lot of stuff saying like, oh, if you have depression, it's beautiful, like you're beautiful, it's fine, everything's gonna be okay. But the reality is, and the thing that people need to be aware of, is that depression's not beautiful. There's nothing beautiful about not wanting to leave the house in the morning because you just feel a heavy weight on your chest. There's nothing beautiful about being so anxious that you have to hide in a closet because that's the only space where no one is around you, so you can have your third anxiety attack of the day. There's nothing beautiful about sitting across from someone you're in love with at a dinner and only being able to eat 8 bites of the pasta that he's paying for, because if you eat any more than 8, you're gonna have to throw it up and you don't want to ruin the night. There's nothing beautiful about these things, but what people have to realize is these things may not be beautiful, but you are. And if I could go back in time and tell myself anything, I would tell myself that, because I would have gotten help a lot faster. I'm proud of who I am now. Like, I've come out of it a much, much stronger person. There are days when I'll start talking in class, or I'll say something to a stranger, and I kind of have to step back and go like, who is this person? I never would have done this before. I don't talk to people. I don't share my opinion ever, but it feels good to be able to give a voice to something, and especially to something I'm as passionate about as mental health. I'm not sharing my story because I want sympathy, and I want to make that very, very clear. I'm sharing my story because stories like mine aren't unique. Stories like mine happen every day behind closed doors, and stories like mine go untold because, just like my 6th grade self, there's a smile masking all of it that no one wants to look behind.